Some weeks ago, I got the DJI Mavic Air 2. DJI. I think most people pronounce the J as a G. Have you noticed that? Anyway, because of bad weather and me working full time at my regular job, I haven't had that much time testing the drone out. But I think I've tried it out enough to give you my first impressions of it. So, keep watching. Hi, my name's Roger, and on this channel we talk about cameras, tech gear and videography. And if this is something that you're also interested in, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Back in 2004, I owned a Sony Ericsson T630 mobile phone. Now, you may think, hold on, this isn't the video I thought I was going to see. But just wait, I have a point. At that time, back in 2004, that phone just blew my mind. I remember thinking that this has to be it. Phones don't get better than this. But little did I know that 3 years later, Steve Jobs would present the biggest change in mobile phone history. And even though this is the first drone that I have ever owned, and the second one that I have ever flown, I kind of have that same feeling now that I had back then in 2004. Like, can this get any better than it already is? Of course, by now I know that the evolution of technology is inevitable, but my feelings towards this drone is really good. When I bought this drone, I got the Fly More combo. And to start off, I would really recommend that you do the same if you're thinking about getting this one for yourself. Because with the Fly More combo, you get 2 extra batteries. And even though DJI says that the flight time of this drone is up to 34 minutes without wind, that is, my experience is that each battery lasts for about 20 to 25 minutes, all depending on how much wind there is and what flight mode I'm flying in. And having 3 full charge batteries has come really in handy, because I find myself using all 3 batteries every time I've taken this drone out. Of course, this might improve when I get more experience with the drone, but for now, I am really happy that I got these 2 extra batteries. So, including 2 extra batteries, what else comes in the Fly More combo that doesn't come in the regular package? What you get extra in the Fly More combo is, as I said, 2 extra batteries, you get extra propellers, you get a charging dock for all the 3 batteries, you get an USB adapter for the batteries that makes the battery into a power bank if you suddenly need to charge your phone. You get a set of ND filters, you get an ND16, ND64 and an ND256. And we're going to talk a little bit more about ND filters later on in the video. And you get this shoulder bag that holds everything you get in the Fly More combo. And I'm really satisfied with this shoulder bag. It's so easy to just put everything in the bag, throw it on your shoulder, and you're on your way. And it doesn't take up that much space either. And it's actually, even though it's full of the drone, charging cables, the batteries and the remote controller, it's actually not that heavy. Now, what could be different though is that it could have been a little more sturdy. They could have added a tad more padding in the bag, so you're not that afraid of bumping into things. But overall, the shoulder bag comes really in handy and I'm really satisfied with it. You can charge all the 3 batteries and the controller at the same time. You use the charging cable, connect the charging dock, and place all the 3 batteries in the dock. the charger will start charging the battery with the least amount of power first. To charge the controller, you connect the USB end of the cable in the charger and then place the USB-C end of the cable underneath the controller. And now everything is charging at the same time. I mean, that's really convenient. When it comes to the controller, DJI has made a change in the design if you look back to older controllers. If we compare this controller with the one that came with the DJI Mavic Air, this new one has a significant larger build. It's heavier, and the two most significant changes is that the new controller has no antennas sticking out of it. The antennas is now built into the controller. I think this makes the flying somewhat more easy. You don't have to think about what direction the antenna have to be pointing in to get the best signal. Now you just point the controller in the direction of the drone, and that's it. The second big change is that now, instead of putting the phone on the bottom part, you now have this holder on top. This is made more ergonomically for your phone. Now you can even have a small case on your phone and it still works fine. And it feels more natural to have your screen above the joysticks. The bigger build of the controller makes it feel good in the hand, and you get a good grip while flying. And I'm never afraid that I'm going to drop it or something like that. The changes with the controller makes the overall look, feel and handling of the controller a lot better in my opinion. Like with the previous model, you get cables for every mobile phone. You get a micro USB, you get USB-C, and you get a lightning cable. You mount your phone in the stand and connect the cable. That's it. I mean, it's so easy. Power on the controller by clicking 2 times, first one short press and then one long until it beeps. On the controller you have 3 different kind of flight modes, controlled by the slide button in the middle of the controller. First one is tripod mode. This makes the drone fly slow and steady. No matter how hard you push the joysticks, the drone is limited when it comes to speed and movement. This mode is great to capture slow and steady shots. Second mode is normal mode. This mode limits the top speed, but you have a lot more movement and speed than in the tripod mode. The third mode is sport mode. This mode disables the sensor on the drone, the obstacle avoidance stops, and you achieve the top speed of the drone, which is 68 kilometers per hour or 42.5 miles per hour. But as all the sensor is turned off in this mode, you have to be careful when flying so you don't crash into things. Furthermore, on the controller you have the return to home button. Just press and hold and the drone will by itself return to the place where it had its last liftoff. Just make sure before lifting off that the drone has updated its return to home position. You will get a voice notification when the position is updated before takeoff.
The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
Up in the left corner you have a function button. This function button can be programmed to do one of 3 different things. First mode is recenter the gimbal. Second is turn the auxiliary LED lights underneath the drone on and off. And the third is toggle the screen from live view into map and then back again. On the right side of the controller you have the camera flip button, which switches from photo mode to video mode. On the right top side you have the button that starts and stops recording if you're in video mode. And if you're in photo mode, you press the button when you want to take a photo. On the top left side you have the gimbal scrolling wheel that turns the gimbal up and down. The scrolling wheel is really sensitive, so if you want a smooth shot, just do small movements here. You can also move the gimbal with having a long press on the screen of the phone with your finger, and then the gimbal will move wherever you move your finger on the screen. On the bottom of the controller you find your joysticks. Just pull them out and screw them into place. The battery is placed on the top of the drone. Just pushing down until you hear the click, and then the battery is in place. On the side of the drone, you find the micro SD slot. This drone supports micro SDs up to 256 gigabytes. But there is also an internal memory inside of the drone, and this is up to 8 gigabytes. This can be a lifesaver if you forget to bring your micro SD card. On the other side, you find the USB-C connection. This is not for charging the batteries when they are connected to the drone, but for transferring the files that's inside the internal memory of the drone. The Mavic Air 2 is the first drone to come equipped with AirSense. This is a technology that detects and warns the drone operator of nearby aircrafts. As far as other drone safety features go, the Mavic Air 2 has obstacle sensors on the front and rear to help avoid collisions, and a bottom sensor next to the auxiliary LED light. It has no sensors on top of the drone. The new sensor inside of the Mavic Air 2 is a 1/2-inch quad Bayer sensor. It's similar to the 48 megapixel sensors that's been available on smartphones for the past 2 years. By default, it captures a 12 megapixel image, but it's possible to snap shots using the full resolution of 48 megapixels. The sensor has a fixed aperture of f2.8. That means that the amount of light that the lens lets in is constant. So the only way to change the amount of light is ISO and shutter speed. If you're out flying when there's not that much light, changing your ISO is the way to get the correct exposure. But if you're out flying on bright sunny days, you have your ISO at 100. And then the only way to change the amount of light is by cranking up the shutter speed. But if you want that cinematic look with a natural amount of motion blur, you want the shutter speed to be the double of your frame rate, the 180-degree rule. And if you're filming in 24 or 25 frames per second, you want the shutter to be 1/48th or 1/50th of a second. So the only way to reduce the amount of light that gets into your sensor is to apply an ND filter. If you get the Fly More combo, DJI delivers 4 ND filters. You can get a third-party ND filter with different amounts of stops to them, and I recommend that you do that because the ND filters that comes with the Fly More combo starts with an ND16. That's 4 stops of light. But sometimes you might not need that much, and then you're left with either raising your ISO and be more compromised to digital noise, or lower your frame rates, and I would not recommend that you do that. To calculate how many stops of light you need, ergo what ND filter you need, power up your drone and make sure that in your settings you have the histogram and the overexposure warning, the zebra stripes, turned on. And now you don't put any ND filter on it. Set the frame rate to what you want. Let's say you want to shoot in 60 frames per second because you want to have the possibility to slow down the footage. With 60 frames per second, you want your shutter speed to be 1/120th of a second. Then fly the drone up. And when you have the drone in the air, raise your shutter speed to get the right amount of light into your sensor to get the correct exposure. Now, let's say you need to raise the shutter all the way up to 1,000th of a second to get the right exposure. The amount of times you then have to divide that shutter speed in half to get to 1/120th of a second tells you now how many stops of light you need on your ND filter. So let's take 1,000th of a second and divide that in half. You get 1/500. Divide that in half again and you get 250th of a second. Divide that in half again and then you get to 125th of a second. This is the closest you get to 1/20th of a second. That's 3 times you had to divide 1000 in half. And that means you need 3 stops of light on your ND filter to get the correct exposure when your frame rate is 60 frames per second in this case. And the shutter speed is 1/20th of a second. The amount of stops on your ND filter are categorized like this. An ND4 equals 2 stops. An ND8 equals 3 stops. ND16 4 stops. ND32 5 stops. ND64 6 stops, and so on. So with the ND filters that's provided by the Fly More combo, you get some help. But in this situation, I would recommend to get an extra pack of ND filters so you have more to choose from when it comes to the amount of stops that you need. I got a pack from PGI Tech with 4 ND filters, ND8, 16, 32 and 64. But what's special about these is that they're also polarized as well as ND filters. That means that they also reduce reflection on any surface, like water or on the hood of a car. In video mode, you can shoot all the way up to 4K in 60 frames per second. You also have slow motion mode where you can get 120 frames per second and 240 frames per second in 1080p. Just remember the camera basics, so we get that natural cinematic motion blur. In video mode, you also have quick shots. This is pre-programmed movements that the drone can perform without you doing anything other than selecting what you want to be in focus of the shot and then pushing start. The drone does the rest by itself. You have drone mode. By using this, the drone have you in frame or the subject in frame and then slowly backs up and rise to reveal the surrounding that you're in. Rocket mode, the drone have you in frame and then flies straight up while tilting the gimbal slowly down so you get a shot directly above you. Circle mode is just that, the drone circles around you. Helix mode, it's almost the same as circle mode, but here the drone starts close to you, circles around you, and slowly rises up while it's circling. This gives you a better overview of the surroundings than the circle mode. Boomerang mode is what the name says. It starts and stops at the same spot, but raises up and goes back down on its way around the subject. Asteroid mode starts with you and then backs up almost like the rocket mode, and here the drone captures several different shots of your surroundings and stitches it together to this epic globe. When it comes to the hyperlapses, I haven't tried them out yet, but there are 4 different kind of hyperlapse modes. You have free mode. You can fly the drone around freely and it captures the hyperlapse wherever you fly it to. Then you have circle mode, a circular hyperlapse. You select your subject and the drone captures a hyperlapse flying around that selected object. Then you have course lock. The drone flies in one direct line while it captures the hyperlapse. Waypoint. Here you can select multiple locations that you want the drone to fly from. The drone will automatically fly that path to capture your hyperlapse. Then you have tracking modes. You get 3 different tracking modes. you have an active track. Here the drone tracks you with the camera, and the drone will also fly with you as you move. Then you have spotlight track. The drone stays still while just turning around, and only the camera tracks your subject to keep it in the shot. Then you have point of interest mode. You can fly the drone around freely, but it will always have you, the subject, in the frame no matter where you fly. Then we have panorama modes. The different modes are sphere mode. This is kind of like the asteroid mode in the video mode, but here in a photography mode. Then you have 180 degree mode. It takes a 180 degree panorama picture. Then you have a wide angle mode. It's not as wide as the 180 degree picture, but still wider than a normal picture. Then you have vertical mode. As the name reveals, it captures a vertical picture. Single pictures or single mode takes a normal JPEG. The 48 megapixel mode is the highest resolution you can get. You also have a smart mode and different other modes when it comes to picture photography, but I haven't tried them out yet. So to wrap this up, I'm surprised on how easy it is to fly this drone. Like I said in the beginning, I've never owned a drone before, and this drone has for now made the experience delightful. There is probably a ton of features that I haven't touched upon in this video, like find my drone feature, that the drone can take off and land in your hand, how far you can fly the drone before losing signal, and so on. And if the weather gets better soon, I may be able to take it out and try this some more. Now, I just want to finish off this video by saying, if you have a drone or plan to get one, remember to always follow the rules and the regulations that apply for your country and region. So that's it for this video. Please give it a like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and yeah, maybe I will see you in another video. Bye.